Before we jump into today's case, we have another unfortunate development on a case we've covered previously. I talked about it last week, but it's that time of year. Thankfully, at least it does bring some answers to the family, but I think in this case, it's going to be particularly tough. Abdullahi, Abdi, Sharif. This case for me is an absolute heartbreaker because we have an extremely young man who basically didn't even really get a chance to start his life yet. And it seems like something was bothering him. He had sent a message about bad news, and then he disappeared, and now we have some answer. From KYOUTV.com, Des Moines police say a body pulled from a river during the weekend was that of an 18-year-old who's been missing for more than 3 months. Police say Abdullahi, Abdi, Sharif's body was recovered Saturday afternoon from the Des Moines River. Sharif was reported missing January 17th when he left his job at a Des Moines shopping mall. Police say there were no traumatic injuries, and a cause of death has not been determined. Sharif's disappearance drew media attention and prompted several searches with hundreds of volunteers. Just jumping over at Express News, another additional piece of information. Officers responding to a call Saturday found the submerged body. An autopsy found no signs of traumatic injury, and a cause of death has not been determined, police said. So in terms of looking at a potential foul play situation, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot to go on here with that. But if I recall this case correctly, I seem to remember that they got a cell phone ping that put him near an area called Prospect Park. Let me actually just bring that up real quick. And this is walking directions from the target he was working at to Prospect Park. Interestingly, the Google walking directions put him right at the AT&T store where we know they did have a sighting. If I recall correctly, it was on videotape of him walking through the parking lot of the AT&T store. But I'm really, if I have this wrong, let me know in the comments down below. If I recall correctly, the ping that they got for him being over near the Prospect Park area seemed like it was too fast for someone to have done it on foot. And keep in mind, this is in January. It looks like it might have been pretty snowy out when this was going on as well. So I'm just wondering about what's going on with this case. Something about it still feels a little off to me, if I'm correct about that cell phone ping in particular. I went looking through some of the older articles and I couldn't find the same detail. I didn't have enough time to watch my whole video on it. So I'm kind of just a little bit stuck on this case. I don't know if the answer is quite as simple as it seems. Yes, obviously he spoke about something that was stressing him out. But then would it be possible that he would get a ride from someone and then go somewhere where he was deciding to end his own life? The mechanics of that don't seem right to me. Of course, we did contribute to the GoFundMe. Because of that, I got an update that came out today, and there's things in that update that are also leading me to believe that friends and family aren't quite sure about the outcome here and still looking for more answers. And of course, our heart is with them, and I hope that they do keep pushing for that, and I hope the investigators do help them by firming up any of these loose ends. Terrible, terrible outcome, and I wish that there was some way that we could know what was going on. I wish that there was some way that we could have helped a young man in distress like this, and sometimes sharing details of those stories might help other people that are in similar situations. But if there are further updates on this, I will let you guys know. In terms of today's case, this is a real strange one. You know, it wasn't too long ago we were all having our own Super Bowl parties. It was before the world was a very different place. Abby Flynn was getting ready to have a party. She was, I guess she had made some cookies, and she was having some pizza dough rising. She had left it rising, decided she was going to go for a walk. At least that's kind of the assumption. And her friends start showing up for the Super Bowl party, but Abby is nowhere to be seen. So right now, we're going to turn on the searchlight for Abby Flynn. Welcome to another episode of Brainscratch Searchlight. I'm John Lorden, and I want to thank you guys for joining me here today. Let's start by learning just a little bit about where today's case takes place. This is in Gloucester. Gloucester is a city in Cape Ann in Essex County, Massachusetts, in the United States. It's part of Massachusetts' North Shore. The population was over 28,000 at the 2010 U.S. Census, an important center of the fishing industry and a popular summer destination. And interestingly, just having Abdi's update and talking about the fact that he was found in a body of water in this particular area, we've got a lot of water, a lot of considerations around that. Let's start at the NamUs profile so we can learn more about Abbie. In the articles I'm seeing, I believe she went by the name Abbie. Here at NamUs, we're finding that her first name is actually Mary. Mary Abbie Flynn, a white Caucasian female. Date of last contact, February 2nd, 2020, missing at the age of 59. For height, they have her between 5'5" to 5'7", and for weight, 190 to 210 pounds. Other details here, Mrs. Flynn, known as Abbie, was last seen on FaceTime with her son at approximately 2:40 in the afternoon on February 2nd. She indicated at the time that she was going for a walk in her neighborhood. And that has become, like, some articles are actually reporting that they know that she went for a walk, but there was a conversation with the police chief, and there was an interesting distinction made that I think is pretty important. What they truly know is what's being listed here, that she had told her son she was planning on going for a walk. But could something else have happened there? The police chief did note that it seemed like she might have left her house unlocked, but also noted it didn't seem like there was any struggle that had happened within the house. So it seems like it's not really an intruder type situation, but I think we can't really rule that out. And for all the articles that you're going to see on this case, if you look into it for yourself, you're going to see that the assumption that she went for a walk is a pretty firm assumption. And admittedly, we're talking about her talking to her son, just before 3 o'clock. She's got all her friends coming over. They're supposed to arrive at 6. So we've got a pretty narrow time window. And her intent, obviously, when she was talking to her son was to certainly go for a walk. When friends arrived at her residence for a party actually, they're saying her friends started arriving for the party here at 4:30. Other reports I'm seeing seem to lean more towards 6 o'clock, but somewhere in that range. Her friends show up and they basically find that she's not there. Numerous searches via land and sea have not yielded any results. For physical description, hair color is brown and is shoulder length, and eye color they have also listed as brown. No distinctive physical features. Clothing and accessories, they don't have a description here, but we're going to get a little bit of a description. It kind of moves around. There's a few different thoughts on what she might have been wearing when she went out, but we'll get that from some of the articles as we move forward. The area that she lives in is, she actually lives on St. Louis Avenue. And if we zoom out here a little bit, you can see we've got significant water just all over the place. Niles Pond looks like a very large pond. We've got Brace Cove, which is a place that she would like to walk to, and that's why I've got it marked here on the map. Pretty short walk. Looks like from her home that might have been a 5 to 10 minute walk, even if she was strolling, maybe not walking at a very brisk pace. We've got Niles Beach over here to the west. There is just a lot of water around this area. And of course, that always brings us a lot of cause for concern. Let's learn a little more over at the GloucesterTimes.com. Abbie Flynn, 59, of St. Louis Avenue, went for a walk around 4 p.m. February 2nd after she had prepped her house to host a Super Bowl party. When her guests arrived 2 hours later, Flynn wasn't home. So you can see in this version, we're already getting the time slipping around a little bit. They're saying she went for a walk at 4. From what I understand, we don't have anyone that actually laid eyes on her as she went for this walk. So it's a bit of an assumption that she went for a walk. And then here they're saying that her friends were supposed to arrive at 6. Flynn is a white female, brown hair, 5'5", and weighing about 200 pounds. Originally, Flynn was believed to have been wearing a red jacket when she left the house. Last week, police said that based on the family's assessment, Flynn might have been wearing a navy blue LL Bean puffer jacket, LL Bean shoe boots, blue jeans, and possibly a flannel shirt. It was pretty cold there. The police chief was talking about the initial searches and saying that, they were looking at hiking trails that are nearby that she was known to frequent. They were talking about how cold it was when they were out there searching for her. So for her to be wearing a jacket, certainly a possibility. And this information is kind of changing a little bit because the family is essentially going to her house and looking through her things and trying to remember, oh, did she have this? Is this missing? And that's why originally they thought maybe she was wearing red, but now they think it's actually a navy blue LL Bean puffer jacket. Over at NewYorkPost.com, Abby Flynn, 59, of Houston, Texas, was preparing for the party at her family's vacation home in Gloucester. And this is an important consideration because a lot of people are probably wondering what's going on with her family. Is she married? Where's her husband? She does have a husband, but he was back at the home in Houston, Texas. They also have 3 children, but they're all adult children. None of them live at home anymore. She is a retired nurse, grew up in Gloucester, and divides her time between that city and Houston, where her husband, Rich, works as a radiologist. They have a wonderful life and are just really happy, the woman's brother, Brian Flynn, told Dateline. It doesn't make sense that she would just walk away. Flynn has 3 adult children, 1 who lives in New York and 2 who are away at college, according to her brother. She spoke to them that afternoon, the day she went missing, he said. She is the most caring and selfless mother, friend, and sister. She'd do anything for us. And we're going to learn a little bit more about her by this article over at Gloucester Times. I actually want to call out, Gloucester Times has done amazing coverage on this. I also want to call out, this seems like a very caring community. And the police chief, I'm ultimately pretty impressed by. I really like that he reached out to a local show to do an in-depth interview, took all the open questions that came in. I believe it was on a Facebook stream. I really wish that we would see more of that. And it just looks like this is an area where there's a lot of very caring people. So yes, 3 children and her husband, Rich. The family is not speculating on what possibly has happened. And that's information primarily coming from her brother. Her brother is really the main person that's been a point of contact for the media. It's up for the police to find her, her brother said. Abby Flynn is a very normal person, her brother said. She liked weaving baskets, knitting and dyeing wool, photographing wildlife, and cooking and baking. She is very skilled, Brian added. One thing that gives me a little pause for concern there is the possibility that she might have been taking some pictures. And the family actually has gone through all the belongings at the home. They're saying that her 2 main cameras are actually at home. The police chief is saying they don't know. They're not 100% sure that maybe she didn't have another kind of, pocket shot type camera and had taken that with her. So just knowing that this is someone that liked to go walking frequently, would walk the trails, had her favorite spots that were around this vacation home. Is there some possibility that she was going to do that, took a camera out, and then there was some type of accident or something like that? I would tell you guys at this point, it seems like the police chief is feeling, I don't want to say confident, but they've done a lot of land searches and they haven't found her. They haven't really found any signs of her being out there. So I think the big fear is that we're talking about her winding up in the water. Just to jump back to the map real quick too, look at this area. Because I was looking at it saying, okay, where are the cameras? Like, what cameras could have picked her up? This is a neighborhood street surrounded by a lot of foliage. There is a church on the corner of her street. So if she had walked out that way, I would think there's some possibility that there might be cameras on the church that might have picked her up. But knowing the places where she was known to frequent, there's a very good chance she didn't walk out that way at all. I mean, for her to go to Brace Cove, it makes no sense for her to go north. She would have probably gone south and come out this way. If she wanted to go see the water on the other side, she probably would have come south and walked out that way. It's one of those things. We're just really not sure. He did mention that there was some camera footage that they have of someone walking, but the person is so far away and the experts have looked at it and they do not think that it's a match for her. So, but there's not a lot of camera opportunities out here, even knowing that these are probably very nice homes that probably have security systems that might include cameras. Look at how many of these homes are actually back away from the street. They have really long driveways. So even if you have camera systems that are on the homes, there's a good chance that they're not getting a whole lot of the street, plus just tons of trees and shrubbery in this area. Let's go back to learning a little bit more about Abbie. She also enjoyed homemade macaroons, croissants, bagels, and ice cream. And there's comments here just about her cooking that she really loved to show her friends and family how much she loved them through her cooking and her food. The love of the city is one that the Flynns know well. Born in Rochester, New York, the Flynn siblings moved with their parents to Rocky Neck in 1963. We've been attached to Gloucester since 1963, her brother Brian said. We both passionately love Gloucester. It is no accident that Abbie bought a house overlooking Brace Cove, he smiled. It is very confounding to us, and we just want people in Gloucester to know that they have amazing people here, he said. We knew that, but now we really know that. It's really interesting looking into this case through the lens of looking at it through the media, because there is so much media about this case when she initially goes missing, and it seems like there is a massive search effort that is launched. And then within about a week or so, the media on this case almost completely dries up. There's a few things that happen outside of that first week, but there's a ton of information about what goes down in that first week. Here's another article from Gloucester Times. And I also want to give a big thank you to Taylor Ann Bradford, who is actually the writer on most of the articles about this case. The Gloucester Police Department is asking for the public's help in locating Gloucester resident Abbie Flynn, Police Chief Edward Conley said. Here we get a very important detail. Her cell phone was located inside her house after she was reported missing. For some reason, she did not take the cell phone on that walk with her. I think it's just really important for anyone. If you're stepping anywhere off your property, please take the cell phone with you. It is such an important tool for cases like this. Not to mention, the police are really, initially when they look at this, they fear that she might have had some type of accident or some type of medical event that happened while she was out on this walk. As we get older, there's a better and better chance of that occurring. And if it does occur, I know I certainly want to make sure that I have my phone with me. The police did speak to her family, and apparently it wasn't abnormal for her to go on walks without her phone. And I get that too. I understand that some people want to go and maybe they just want a moment for themselves and they just want to detach or disconnect from the possibility of it ringing or having someone interrupt their time. I totally understand that. But even in those cases, I think still take your phone, just put it on mute, but just make sure to have it with you. In addition to approximately 80 police personnel searching, they are receiving assistance from aircrafts equipped with highly sensitive camera and thermal imaging equipment in the search. Conley explained that yesterday's weather could have been a factor. Yesterday's weather was fairly mild, Conley said. It wouldn't be uncommon for someone to walk on the rocks, to take a photograph, and perhaps slip or fall. I'm not saying that's what happened here, but it is something that we consider. Although Conley confirmed that there has been no history of foul play in the area that Flynn went missing, police can't rule out the possibility. And once again, I think it's important to be honest about that, because you might have people looking at this story and we have this kind of strong assumption, we know that she went for a walk. And, the police are thinking maybe she was going to take a picture, slipped, and fell into the water. And that might make a casual observer not think about something that's important to another consideration, like, hey, I remember seeing a white van that was on the street that day. And interestingly, they have had several calls about white vans, but they've been tracking down those leads and ruling those out as well. But I do think it's important to just leave that door open because, like I said, we don't know 100% that she actually did go out for the walk. Yes, there's nothing in her house to suggest that there was any type of struggle, but is there other ways to abduct someone that maybe wouldn't leave those obvious signs behind? I think you have to be open to that. Flynn's neighbor, Roger Ward, said none of it makes sense. I just can't see inviting everyone over. He says the oven's warm. Now, this became a big point of contention on the Facebook interview with the police chief. I don't know if the oven is truly warm, but people were asking over and over and over, was the oven on? And the police chief was very clear, no, the oven was not on. He did say there was cookies that were up on the counter. He did say that there was pizza dough. They were essentially planning on making pizzas when all of her friends came over. Another important factor is she does have a dog, and the dog was also left at home. I really didn't get a good sense of, was it normal for her to leave the dog home or not? But in this instance, the dog, which I believe is a pug, was actually left at home. And she left the phone in the house, Ward said, who has known Flynn since she moved into her home. Both Conley and Ward confirmed that Flynn is an avid outdoor enthusiast, and it's not uncommon for her to go on walks. She's a wildlife nature photographer, Ward said. She would hide in the woods and take photographs of coyotes and stuff. Another important factor there is now we're learning that you've got some animals in the area which might actually give someone some trouble. In some of the comments I'm seeing on Web Sleuths, people are talking about, when I go walking, I make sure to carry a big stick because we've got coyotes around this area where I live as well. I've been hearing some stories from even family members back in California about coyote issues that they're having around their homes. Over at masslive.com, police and the U.S. Coast Guard are searching for a woman from Gloucester who went missing early Sunday evening. Rescue crews from the Coast Guard station in Gloucester and the air station at Cape Cod are helping with the search, according to a tweet from the U.S. Coast Guard's 1st District. The proximity of this woman to the water merited the Coast Guard's involvement, Petty Officer Ryan Knoll said. We are assisting Gloucester PD with this search. The police chief spoke about this as well. Just there's a group, we're going to talk about them as we hit another article, but effectively it is a bunch of local organizations that when someone rings the bell and says, hey, we've got an issue and we need help, kind of an all hands on deck type call, this group kicks in and all kinds of different officers from different districts and different entities all start collaborating and working together. And keep in mind, this is something that was happening on Super Bowl Sunday, and all these people rose to the occasion and got out there and started searching for her pretty close to immediately. That's something really unique about this case is we have her go missing, and we know about it within a few hours of her actually missing. So searches are mobilized. Unfortunately, we just don't seem to find what we're looking for. Another article at Mass Live, this one from February 4th, 2020, search suspended, but investigation still ongoing. So they call out all this help, they get all these people, and really it seems like it is an extremely intensive search effort that goes on for 1 to 2 days. Then things shift into a different gear, but not by much. We're going to see some other articles here. Authorities looked for Flynn in the many paths and woods around the area where she went missing and along the coastline. Literally, as soon as things kind of downshift, you then get an article that comes out literally the next day talking about there's more resources that are coming out and looking for this woman. Police Chief Ed Conley said his officers continue to remain vigilant around trails, the coastline, and harbor near her home. Originally, police were going to take a day off from the search for Flynn, but on Wednesday afternoon, crews gathered again by the wooded area off High People's Road, a trail Flynn was known to hike on. Police say the 59-year-old likely went for a walk near Brace Cove, a popular area for walking near the ocean, after leaving her house on St. Louis Avenue. It's unclear why officials are now looking for her in the wooded area of the city. I don't know personally if that's too hard to understand. It could be that they were speaking to family members and the family members are giving them more information about the trails that she would use locally. So NemLec is the name of this, I don't want to really say it's an organization, but kind of an association of several entities in the area that pull together on cases like this. February 5th, 2020, members of the Northeastern Massachusetts Law Enforcement Council and approximately 20 police dogs were out again Wednesday searching for a missing Gloucester woman. Northeastern Massachusetts Law Enforcement Council, that's NEMLEC, that's the group I've been telling you about, had wanted to come up with their canines again and rehash some of the same areas, Chief Edward Conley said. It's not uncommon for them to do that. There is no specific updates. Their search is not based on any new information. As the city keeps an eye out for Flynn, Gloucester Police are advising community members to take precaution in where they search. They shouldn't put themselves in danger, Conley said. They shouldn't be searching areas, particularly around the coastline, that they are not accustomed to walking along or being around. That being said, I'm sure that people that live in that area for a good reason, because they do like getting out to those beautiful spots, those beautiful locations. And I think even with stay-in-place orders that may be active right now, people are probably doing that still for getting their exercise, and I'm hopeful that those people are still staying aware to this case. And if you can, please help me by raising exposure to this case by sharing this video with friends or family that you might have that live in Massachusetts. Let's continue here at Boston25news.com. This article is from February 11th. The search for the 59-year-old mother was called off days after her disappearance, but now state police are resuming the search underwater. State police started using sonar to search the bottom of the ocean in Braces Cove. Childhood friends of Abbie are also still holding out hope. On Wednesday, 5,000 flyers will be posted throughout Gloucester by a group of volunteers. I'm really moved by the efforts that I'm seeing here, both in terms of law enforcement and these other entities that are assisting with law enforcement, but also the community really seems to be rallying around this very strongly. Over at the Boston Globe, the Massachusetts State Police dive team completed a 2-day search of the Gloucester coastline Wednesday. Unfortunately, did not find any evidence related to the disappearance. Dive teams scoured Brace Cove and Niles Beach, so essentially working on both sides of her home. They used sonar devices to search under the water, but did not find any trace of Flynn, according to the statement. Now, of course, when you have a good, caring community like that, you also have people that are talking about this case to each other, and around that, some theories start popping up, and then the police are effectively trying to address some of those theories. So at this article over at Gloucester Times, let's see what people are talking about and what the response from law enforcement is. People have hypothesized about coyotes, suspicious vehicles, and made connections to drownings and other missing persons cases in social media posts and in phone calls to the Times. The Gloucester Police Department wants to put the public at ease. So a big thing they were worried about was there was another case with another woman that had gone missing a few years before this, and there's some elements of that case that sound very similar to this one. And you had people that lived there that remembered that case saying, hey, wait, there's got to be some connection. This is too similar. Here's their response. There is no indication, zero at all, none, that this is connected in any way to any other cases or that foul play was involved, Police Chief Ed Conley told the Times. If I thought there was some sort of danger to the public, I would err on the side of releasing that information rather than keep it, but there is none. As people hypothesize and do their own personal investigations, Conley explained that he can't prove a negative. This is a very important point of view that he has here. And actually, even when I speak to other true crimers, we talk about this aspect all the time too, because, we read your comments and we see theories that come in, and sometimes those theories are asking us to do exactly what he's stating here. That is what people want me to do, Conley said. They're coming up with ideas. They want me to prove that these things didn't happen. And that's proving a negative, and that's impossible to do. It is really tough. And, from their point of view, you have to consider that they're really going to look at this case. They're going to look at the available pieces of information and see where that leads them. And yes, I do think it's important to keep your mind open to other possibilities. And like we can see from his previous comments, they don't think this is a foul play situation, but he was very honest in that interview that they did on the local show. He's not positive that she actually went out for that walk. He's not 100%. They think it's very likely, but he's not 100% on that. He really makes a good point. There's just, Can we prove at this point that no one came into her house and someone held up a gun and said, "You're coming with me," and there was no struggle and they just got her to walk out and they closed the door behind them, and that's that? So the show that I've been referring to is called Good Morning Gloucester. I'll have a link to it. I'll put this at the top of the sources down below. If you spend any more time on this case, you really want to watch this video segment. The host, Joey, does a really good job. He gives the chief all the space that the chief needs to go through this. The chief includes a map that basically details their search grids. The main thing that I noticed for their search grid, basically number 1 area was where her house is. Number 2 area, Brace Cove. It's obvious that was a very strong consideration of theirs right from the start. But I do think it's worth time, especially if you live local to the area. I think this video is about 35 minutes long, or so. Actually, I'm sorry, it's 50 minutes long. But there is a lot of very good detail here. And on top of that, it's just good to see a police chief that's engaging the public in this way. I really just think this is a guy that's trying to use every tool at his disposal to move this case forward. Here's where I turn it over to you, brain scratchers. Let's talk about this case in the comments below. As always, I ask that we remain respectful. I'm totally up for seeing whatever theories people have down there, but please keep in mind that there's a very good chance that the family or friends are going to see this video. So please, let's stay respectful to Abby and them. And I truly hope that there is some movement that could be had on this case that maybe doesn't involve that water. Maybe there is some other angle here that could still be looked at. If you have some thoughts on that, I want to see those in the comments down below. Before I sign off today, I want to give a very big thank you to new patrons Angel, Emma, Lucky Lass, and Ashley. On top of that, a big thank you to Tasha for increasing her pledge as well. If you'd like to support the channel, please visit www.lordandarts.com, where you can sign up for PayPal, sign up for Patreon, or buy merchandise. All of it helps keep me here doing what I love doing, spending time with you and helping families in these situations. Take care, and I'll see you back here on Friday with a brand new episode of Brainscratch on the Lord and Arts channel.